This is Travis Wayne Goodsell. Yesterday I went to get the DVD of Hobbs and Shaw at my local FYE store and found out that they're going out of business. It's just the one store. FYE is going to leave the others that are in Utah open. But this is what happens when a company starts to lose money. They start closing stores, hoping that customers will go to the other stores to generate profit for those particular stores. But in regards to FYE, this has to do primarily with streaming services that are kicking their butt. So, we're looking at the soon-to-be obsolete use of DVDs and DVD production. I believe it's Samsung who, at the beginning of the year, or the end of last year, I think it was, we're going to stop production of DVD players sometime this year. And I haven't heard anything about that since, but I don't buy DVD players. I've already got one, but I don't even use it because I digitize everything. And so that also got me thinking about the attack that Russia has waged war on America. In The Art of War, it talks about ways to lessen the amount of death of your troops. And so it goes over smart wars. You know, this was long before smartphones and smart technologies. The ancients of the Eastern Orient knew full well how to wage war. And if you're not familiar with Putin, he's KGB trained. So yeah, he's trained in the art of warfare. And the first part of warfare is to infiltrate a country and spread misinformation and disinformation. Confuse people. Confuse your enemy. And what's interesting is that before Trump, long before Trump, during Obama and even back in Bush's time, there were people who were considered, lunatics, and they misused the term to call them conspiracy theorists, because a conspiracy theory is not a bad thing, but people have changed that definition. And that's part of the misinformation and disinformation campaign strategy, is to change the meaning of words so that people get confused as to whether something is legitimate or not. And I remember people were spreading the fear of Walmart's closing down. The big box store that was going to take over America and shut down all the other companies. Walmart was shutting down stores, and people were doing videos showing government military occupying the parking lots in these closed Walmarts, and people were starting to claim that it was going to be used for martial law and locking people up in cages in these Walmarts. And of course, nobody treated them seriously. because of all the other misinformation and disinformation that was being spread. But if you've not been paying attention to what's gone on at our southern border, several of the camps that Homeland Security and Border Security have been using have been Walmart stores that were actually confiscated or bought out by the United States government, and are now housing all the immigrants in cages. So that was partly true long before it actually got implemented as such. You know, it wasn't intended for American incarcerations, or at least not yet, but it was for incarcerations of human beings to be locked in cages. And so that's the first stage of warfare, is the misinformation and disinformation, the changing of definitions, the confusion over information, distorting of facts so that people can't tell what's real and what's not real. The news, you know, there is no side to news. There is no left-wing side, there is no right-wing side, no liberal, no conservative. News is fact. Fact cannot change depending on a person's opinions. It's no longer fact if it's given opinion status. And so the smart news, I think it's called, the TV commercial, I only listen to what I agree with. I get my news from social media. So clearly they're establishing stereotypes in the commercial and trying to unite both sides to their news. And again, like I said, if the news can be interpreted, it's not news. And so that's the first wave. The second wave is a media blackout, a censorship, a shutdown of communications. You cut off communications of the people. And we're already experiencing that as well with the new analytical programs on the internet, where cookies are being used by apps and websites to spy on our computers and take our data and then censor us based on what our data indicates in their categorization of whether we're left or right, or subcategories within left and right. And also access to specific sites of information and obtaining of information. For example, on the internet, on YouTube, MSNBC is not a dominant recommended source. Instead, Fox News is YouTube's selected choice for people. And I brought that up in one of my earlier videos on this channel. And so that's the second wave. And it's intensifying now, as I'm starting to recognize certain sites are getting attacked and shut down by competitive sites, not wanting the information to be spread, not wanting the information to be known, and so we're getting censored on the internet. And with DVDs, for example, the streaming that's available only allows us to stream what they want us to watch when they want us to watch it. The whole cloud thing, when that came out, that was only a storage for a limited time in regards to movies. So you download a movie into the cloud, but you'd have to watch the movie within 3 months, and then it's gone. And that's what all these streaming sites, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, whatever, they only provide what they want us to watch. And once the time's up, or not enough people are going to the particular stuff, they cut it off and you don't get to watch it again. So if you have a particular interest of a favorite movie, like maybe Willow, great movie, awesome redhead, but if you want to obtain that with DVDs obsolete, you have to rely on streaming services to provide that for you. And if nobody else is aware of it, because the millennial generation is clueless about the great show by Ron Howard, you're out of luck, unless you were able to obtain it and convert it as a DVD, or still have a DVD player. And so that's an example in the entertainment part of the censorship that we're experiencing. With warfare, news is the primary concern with censorship. And we're already seeing this second wave begin. The third wave, that's when your power systems start to fail. The energy, the electricity from our power grids and stuff, and other attacks on utilities. So water, heat, electricity, and fuel. If any of you are old and like me, you remember back in the early 70s, the gasoline crisis, where I was a little kid and my parents would go to fill up the car with gas, and we'd have to wait in a long line to get gas. And so that's part of it. And so that's coming as Trump is threatening to shut down the federal government again. This time, if he does it, it will be more devastating than last time, which broke the world record for the longest time, causing the most damage to America. So that's going to be a part of it. As people are unable to get money to purchase utilities and basic needs, we're already, I wish I could show the video in the clip, but back in 2012 or 15, there was news were reporting that Russia had been attacking us all the way back then and are still doing it today. Every 4 days was what they were reporting back then, that Russia was just playing around, shutting off a grid here, a grid there throughout the United States. Every 4 days. A couple of months ago, they shut down the grid out here where I am, the Oker plant, and the news downplayed it, saying that it was not a terrorist hack or threat, but then they wouldn't say what was the problem, and they never did. And the Fox 13 local news was downplaying the amount of people that were affected, because I talked to the agent on the phone and she gave me a much higher number than what Fox was reporting. And so there's either a miscommunication or the local news is downplaying it specifically to avoid causing a panic, which is what authoritarian governments do. Is they want to prevent the people from panicking about the real problem that's going on, and that just increases the problem when governments censor information from the people. And so those attacks are also continuing and going on. And with Ajit Pai, I don't have nice words for him. He's in charge of the FCC and has shut down net neutrality, which opened up a gateway for all of these problems that we're going to be having and have been having. And so that's the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to have problems with our infrastructure in regards to utilities. And then, of course, the final wave is a physical assault, the actual invasion, because the chaos on the ground for the enemy is so severe that there may even be infighting and civil war among the people. And that's what I've witnessed has been attempted here in America, but Americans are just not capable of rising up in a civil war. Trump keeps threatening that we're going to end up in a civil war if he gets impeached, but America just doesn't have what it takes to defend our lives, liberty, and property, which is sad. But the rest of the world, they've still got it, and they're rising up against their governments. You know, Venezuela, Hong Kong, Paris, Spain. The whole world is erupting into assaults right now, and that's not good news. But America, I don't understand. We're too passive. We're too apathetic, and that's discouraging, because it means that they can just roll right over us and submit us into slavery and bondage and torture. And I don't know if people are going to want to resist then, but it's too late then. So, yeah, that's what's happening, and that's what's going to happen. And that's why we're at war. So, pay close attention, because the times, they are changing.